My name's Marcus. Last summer I ran my first ever marathon in 3 hours and 52 minutes. And 2 weeks ago I ran 2:46 at the Dublin Marathon. Okay, now that I've got that intro out of the way, which took me about 5 attempts to record, I'm just going to get on with the rest of the video. So welcome to the channel. This is my first ever video, and in this video I just want to talk a little bit about my running journey, how I went from being an absolute beginner 2 years ago to now being a half decent marathoner at 20 years old. Part 1, my relationship with running growing up. I have some notes written here because I'm still super unnatural at talking to the camera, and hopefully this will help me be somewhat concise in this video. I was always pretty active growing up. I played a lot of soccer, hockey, tennis, but running to me meant two things: punishment or a means of getting fit, and neither of which I enjoyed. Running was used a lot in the off season in hockey, in the summer, just to try and get a bit of fitness back before the season started. I never felt it actually worked for me. What I'd go and do is run 5k as hard as I can, do this maybe once or twice a week for 2 or 3 weeks in a row. I absolutely hated it and I just couldn't wait for it to be over. And even though I was playing a lot of sports, I was never like the fit player on the team. So I was never a good runner at all. So you get the picture. For the first 18 years of my life, running was this painful thing that I avoided at all costs. I only did it when I absolutely had to, and I hated every second of it. This brings me on to part 2, becoming a regular runner, or a runner by choice. So it's January 2024, I'm in my first year of college and I'm still playing hockey pretty frequently, but my fitness is in a pretty bad place. So one of my mates in college was getting big into running and he decided one evening to drag me along. I think we did 6 or 7 kilometers on the trails around the UCD campus, and it was really, really hard, but I actually really enjoyed it. And it was probably a week later that we then decided to run a half marathon, just completely on a whim, mostly around UCD campus and on the surrounding roads. It was probably still one of the hardest runs I've ever done. It definitely took us more than 2 hours, but in that moment I realized, wow, I can actually run pretty long distances and I actually kind of enjoy this. Not long after that, I signed up to my first ever marathon. So, part 3, the Cork City Marathon, June 2024. I ran the Cork Marathon in 3 hours and 52 minutes, but run is probably a pretty generous word. I ran at least 30 kilometers of it and then it was kind of a run-walk hybrid for the last 12. I still think this is the hardest run I've ever done, and I was so proud of myself for completing it. You'd think after that I'd give up, you know, I've done the marathon, it was incredibly hard, didn't want to go through that pain again. But the next morning, I just had this urge to sign up for another race. And I think I signed up to the Dublin Half Marathon then, pretty soon after that. And that's when I started to add a bit of structure to my training. I think I downloaded Runna and I used that for the Dublin Half, and my time just started to come way down. I ran a 1:31, which was the most unexpected thing ever. I think my goal was probably 1 hour 45 or something. That brings me on to part 4, and I think I'll call this the breakthrough, which was the Dublin Marathon 2024, which is now exactly a year ago. So last year at the Dublin Marathon, I ran 3 hours 11 minutes, and this was a reflection of some actual proper structured training. Now, at the time, I thought this was class. I thought I was one of the best running my 3:11. Since then, I've realized, no, maybe I wasn't, but you know, it's an impressive time, and I hadn't been running for long at all. So I was really, really proud of that effort. And I think this is the race that got me absolutely hooked on running, because I had that taste of a sub 3 hour marathon. I was only 11 minutes away. So shortly after the Dublin Marathon, I started looking at spring marathons because I just wanted to run sub 3 in my next race. And that's what I did. So part 5, the sub 3 hour marathon. I booked the Barcelona Marathon for March 2025 this year, and I absolutely committed to myself to that training block for 12 weeks. And I ran 2:56. At the Barcelona Marathon, I was just a completely different runner than I had been in the past. You know, I had learned so much. I had started to run with so many more people, and running had become more than just a hobby. It was really becoming a passion in my life. I remember actually going out to Barcelona completely on my own, and I just had one goal: running a sub 3 hour marathon. I didn't care about seeing the city or being a tourist. I had absolute tunnel vision on getting that sub 3 hour marathon, because sub 3 was something that I never thought would actually be possible for me. Literally maybe 6 months before that. I thought sub 3 hour marathons were for the elites. I thought you had to be born different to run a sub 3. Turns out anyone can probably run a sub 3. So I've been running for just over a year and I'd broken the 3 hour barrier. This is when I started to think, what's the limit for me? How far can I take this thing? So part 6 of this journey was my first injury and creating content, which actually went hand in hand. So just a few weeks after running sub 3 in Barcelona, I rushed back into racing. I think I did a 10k just 2 weeks afterwards, and I picked up this tendon issue in my foot, which had me sidelined for a few weeks. And while I couldn't run, all I was thinking about was running. And this is what led me to start creating content about running. I'd been wanting to do this for a while, but I was obviously just scared of what people might say, you know, people laughing about it. But eventually I just thought, like, you know, this is something I really want to do. Who actually cares what people think? I'm going to do it. So I set up my Instagram page, Marcus Neal Running, which is, I'm sure, where the majority of you guys are here from. And I started making reels. At first it was kind of one a week. I really started to enjoy making those reels. I was putting them out pretty much every day after a couple of months. I was uploading them to TikTok as well, which was getting some views. And I started to gradually grow my page. So after about 3 months of posting consistently, I was still only at about 700 followers. But this is when the Dublin Marathon sub 2:45 series began. So part 7, Dublin Marathon 2025. This is the first time my Instagram page started to pull in some views because I was posting this series every single day, the sub 2:45 series. Every single day without fail, I would post a 30 to 60 second Instagram reel, and I'd put it on TikTok as well, just showing a little insight into my training. And over the 12 weeks, it gradually just grew and grew. So I was making a lot of progress with my content. I was bringing in loads more views and followers, but I was also making a lot of progress with my running, and I got into the best shape of my whole life. I ended up running 2:46 at Dublin. This is now my marathon PB. It was only 2 weeks ago. Even though the whole point of that whole Instagram series was, can I run sub 2:45? And I was pretty confident that I could do it, but on the day it didn't go my way, and I'm completely fine with that. I still ran a 10-minute PB. I'm over the moon. So part 8, life post-marathon and what's next for me. In the build up to the marathon, I realized I actually really enjoy this content thing, which is exactly why you're seeing this video right now. I want to start making weekly YouTube videos where I document my training. And in terms of my next marathon, it's already been booked. I'm running the Zurich Marathon in April 2026. I'm definitely hoping to get another big PB. To be honest, I'd love to go under 2:40 if I can. I've got 5 months to train, and I just want to get really consistent with it and just see how well I can do. And once again, I'm going to be doing a series to document this marathon block, but instead of doing that series on Instagram, I'm going to do it right here on YouTube. So I'm going to do a 16-week training block for the Zurich Marathon. This training block is actually starting in December, and every single week I'm going to give an insight into my marathon training for that week and show you how I'm progressing towards the Zurich Marathon. And I suppose my overall goal with this channel is to just give a bigger insight into my life and my training, because I love making Instagram and TikTok videos, but the limiting factor is they tend to be about 60 seconds long. You know, like, it's great to show you the sessions I'm doing and, you know, how much I'm running, but it's hard to get across like how I'm feeling about my running and like how life is going outside of that running. So that's exactly why I want to make this longer form content. So if this sounds like something you might want to see, be sure to subscribe to my channel and be sure to follow me on Instagram if you're not already. And I'll see you next week for my very first full week of training.